What we know is a drop. What we don't know is the ocean.
Hello and welcome to the Newton Knowledge Podcast. My name is Mark Singer, partner of Newton One Advisors, and I'm joined by our managing partner, Steve Target. The Newton Knowledge Podcast will provide meaningful content to our valued advisor community. Our discussions will deliver unique insights into the people, processes, and products that make our industry so critical. Newton One is a national life insurance planning firm delivering customized solutions structured to help clients and their advisors engaged in solving estate planning, wealth transfer, business succession, and executive benefits challenges. We are a member of the M Financial Group, which grants our clients access to the nation's elite carriers and exclusive products available only through our network. Today we have Jason Early, founder of RISR, a business insights platform. Jason, thanks for being on today. Thanks for coming in and tell us about yourself and give a little background on your connection to the insurance industry and how your career journey has progressed.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. Excited to be here and look forward to the conversation. You know, I suppose I kind of grew up in the life insurance business, not paying a whole heck of a lot of attention to it as a kid, but my dad was in the life insurance business his whole career, and then I subsequently started my career with a firm here outside of Philadelphia. Half of the business roughly was insurance premium, and the balance was AUM, or assets under management, and that firm really worked exclusively almost with business owners, and so I got a front row seat early in my career, and I spent about 8 years there. But early in my career, into advice and working with business owners, and I just wrote something to some of our stakeholders, and there's a great Steve Jobs quote that says, "You can only connect the dots looking backwards." And as I was thinking about that, I think about my time at that firm and working with advisors and working with business owners and thinking about that. I never thought that it would lead me to where it's led me today, and as part of RISR's journey, and everything that we do is about deepening relationships between advisors and business owners. And so looking back, I would say it certainly wasn't a planned step, but it's interesting to think about that. So yeah, spent my whole career in and around financial services, and for the last 10 plus years kind of solving problems for advisors with technology.
That's great. So I have to ask, RISR, it's all caps. Is that purposely done? Does it stand for something?
It doesn't stand for something. We went through, so we worked with a great firm that we've known for a long time in the Midwest, and we went through a brand discovery exercise, if you will. And so certainly there's elements to the name that tie back to obviously growth when you think about it from a owner and private company perspective, and kind of rising up. Certainly from the advisor's perspective as they think about growth, just the same. And so there's meaning to it from that perspective, but it doesn't stand for anything.
As an entrepreneur, the early stages of building RISR, what unique problem did you identify within the industry and create at RISR to help solve?
Our thesis is very simple, and in our opinion, owners of private companies need better advice, and the advisors that serve them need better tools and technology. And so everything we do is about deepening that relationship between business owners and their advisors. And we use advisors pretty broadly, be it a tax advisor, an investment advisor, an insurance advisor, legal, whatever the advice might be. We think that for decades, really, you all have had the technology to serve the entire household, but you don't have the technology to serve the entire business. And so that's where we come in.
Take us through the use of your product as a client experience.
Yeah, from where the owner sits, one of the main challenges that business owners have is they're flying blind, right? So they've got this business, which is oftentimes their largest asset, and they've got data that is disparate and disorganized, and it's all over the place, and nobody's giving them proper advice as it relates to kind of the entirety of the asset, in our opinion. And it's because of that challenge. And so we built a platform that helps bring that data in seamlessly, analyze, and then serve up insights based on that data to launch you all into better conversations. So that might be around things like succession planning or risk management or investments or capital structure or valuation, you name it. There's a whole host of things that you might talk to an owner about that the owner cares about. And a lot of that depends on getting the right data in, analyzing that data, and serving up the insights based on all that.
One of the things that's very important to Newton One is the collaboration that we have with other advisors. We're working together. There's nearly, it's almost impossible for us to work on a project where we're not working in collaboration with the lawyers and the CPAs and the valuation people and all the other the wealth managers that are working with business owners or individuals. And so I guess help us think through how software can assist with that collaboration. We'll sit around a table and we'll talk about the clients and where they're going and where they've been, but software can be a valuable tool, of course, with that. So walk us through what that means when advisors are working together.
100%, and I think that we think about that a lot. And so we think about you all sitting around a table. We think about you all exchanging emails. We think about you sending PDFs back and forth, the entire workflow, right? Because to collaborate around a business owner, there's a lot of details. And to the data point I made earlier, there's a lot out there. And so we really think of our platform as really almost like a destination or a collaboration. Think about a dashboard with which, a business owner or their advisors can log in and see everything about that business in one place. So be it a document vault, be it, go down the list of those menu items I talked about earlier, succession planning and capital structure and investments and risk management. All of those things require data to come in and then us to be able to serve insights back to the business owner around that stuff. And so your point is a really good one, right? Centers of influence, or you're working with other professionals in the space. Somebody's quarterbacking this on behalf of the business owner, and we like to put our software in the hands of that quarterback so that everybody can get access and collaborate in real time, looking at the same information about the owner. And so, one thing that you all know very well too is good information in is good information out. And so for us to be able to pull all the data and the proper data into the platform, and that might be things like financials, but it also might be things like hopes and dreams and things like that. So, a $20 million business to Mark is different than a $20 million business to Steve. So does it accomplish your retirement income goals, your legacy goals, your philanthropy goals, all these things? And to know the answer to that question, you've had to have asked the question to the owner. And so I say all that to say we view it really as a collaboration dashboard for owners and their advisors, and that doesn't mean a single advisor either.
Yeah, so let's keep diving into that a little bit. Let's talk about as technology improves and as you continue to really expand the offering from RISR, are there certain segments of the professional population that might feel like this is taking the place of some of their professional activities otherwise? And is that a concern with the business?
Yeah, I don't think so. So the natural one that people would say, well, a valuation firm, right? Because certainly valuation's a part of what we do, and we think valuation obviously is critically important to, inform decision making and things like that. But we don't compete with certified valuation work, right? So there are triggering events when a business may or may not need certified valuation work. And we think that that's critically important, and that's typically done by a professional, and that's a professional services engagement. That's not who we are and what we do. Beyond that, again, we make sure to stop at, taking the next step towards advice. We are not in the advice business. We believe that we enable better advice by taking in critical information, analyzing it, and then serving it back up and launching you all into the conversations that you want to be having. So by no means are we in the financial advice business. We are not in the risk management business. We're not in the retirement plan business. We're not in the valuation business, right? These are not core competencies of ours. We are in the software business. But everything that we do is to launch our user or subscriber or our customer into conversations they want to be having with business owners. So I think it's a great question. I think, quite frankly, a lot of times we can even enable or be, top of the funnel type marketing function for evaluation professionals who might use our software as an engagement point to feed their broader business.
So this might fall into that category that's really relatively new to all of us these days. It's that artificial intelligence, the AI market, and how do we really use that information to make us all better professionals, to help our clients, to give them better advice and better counsel. Am I seeing that the right way? Is this just another tool in our box that we can use to help make us more productive?
I think so. I mean, I think certainly this is moving fast, right? And when you think about it, and by no means am I an expert on artificial intelligence or any of that, but we use it in our platform, right? And so how do we use it in our platform? We use it in a way that, we're gathering all of this data across businesses, across, if you've seen one small business, you've seen one, right? They're, they none of them typically look the same, but across a broad swath, you're gonna see some patterns. And so we serve up insights and best practices to owners that pulls, we use a large language model that pulls from a large library of insights based on how they answer questions, based on the data that we get on that business. We're going to serve those insights up, and the AI is pulling that based on the large language model that we've built. So there's certainly components of it in there. We're using, some other technology that's newer, which is called OCR, or original character recognition. And so we're able to pull data out of tax returns. So if you own a business, you can upload obviously your tax returns into the software, and we're going to pull data out of that tax return and ingest it into our system. So, there's a lot of newer technology that's changing fast, and we're using it in our platform. Again, all to help pull data in and make that data ingestion process easier, so that you all can analyze it and provide insights based on it.
And so your clients, your customers are advisors, professionals. They're not the end business.
That's correct. We have no relationship with the end business. Our customers are, broadly speaking, the financial services space.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the future. Let's talk about growth and growth plans and where you see the company in 1 year and 5 years, and kind of give us that vision of where you're going.
Yeah, look, we're at that stage where we just hope to see it alive in 1 and 5 years, but very certainly we've got kind of big ambitions, and we're growing fast. So we've got, a lot of great early users on the platform. We've got a great team going at this, and so we're constantly, we're believers that we'll only go as far as the talent that we can recruit, and so we're constantly cultivating talent and recruiting talent to put around the business. So whether it's in engineering or product or marketing and so on, we're recruiting people and building the team now. Look, we want to continue to make an impact, and so for us, impact is more advisors on the platform giving better advice to the end business owner, and business owners getting a better understanding of their largest asset.
So having the privilege to have successful entrepreneurs on our podcast, selfishly, I'm always interested in the trials and tribulations one had to go through in creating their business. So are there stories you can share or things that maybe you've learned during the creation of RISR?
Yeah. How much time do we have?
Yeah.
There's a million, right? And so, look, building software is hard. Building a company is hard, as you all know. Attracting talent is hard. And so, a couple things that I think about, we talked about some of the bleeding edge technology, be it, everybody's talking about AI. So how are you incorporating AI into your platform? Certainly as a software business and a technology business, you better at least have an opinion on it. And so for us, thinking through how to incorporate that, and then, the OCR technology is not perfect. And so there's challenges in implementing that and managing expectations across users. And so again, building early stage software is difficult, especially when you're not real smart like me. And so I've got to get, what's in my head to product team and to our development team, and then see it come out the other side. And it needs to make sense for the users on our platform. And so there's a million challenges in and around that area. But again, we've got a great team that communicates really crisply, and that's important. And so that helps us deal with that. One thing I think about, and we think a lot about this, values of a company aren't, it's not words on a wall. And, values are really behaviors and how you act inside of an organization, and principles that you live by. And so I say all that to say we believe deeply in our values, and we act a certain way in line with those values. And that can be an incredible attractor of talent, but it can also be a repellent of talent or people that believe differently perhaps. And until you know that can be challenging. And so we've, we raised capital. We've got, customers and people that have said no to our software. We've got people that we've tried to recruit. And so as we go through that process, being cognizant of that, I think is really important. But that's been a bit of a challenge too. And so getting crystal clear on who we are and what's important to us and where we're going, especially at this early stage, because very certainly where we are today isn't where we're going. And so that has been a bit of a challenge for us and one that we're thinking about all the time.
You look back, you've had the opportunity to be led by and coached and mentored by some great leaders. What's your personal leadership motto?
You're so right. I've been incredibly fortunate in my career to have great mentors and great, even great leaders around me, and I'm a sponge for leadership type things. And so, we just got done talking about values. And so, some of our values are things like say the thing you think you cannot say. And we stole that from somewhere, but it's really, as a way to get to deep trust, right? And oftentimes saying the thing you think you cannot say is hard, right? But we don't avoid that conflict. We say it in a way to build trust. So your question wasn't that. Your question was, what's my personal leadership motto? I'm not certain I have one, other than my old man used to say, and I think this is a Roy Disney quote perhaps, but he used to say it all the time, which was, when values are clear, decisions are easy. And so we think about that a lot as an organization, and I've spent a bunch of time talking about values here today. So I think that makes decision making, certainly at the early stages, hard, because you face a million decisions, and a lot of them aren't always crystal clear. But if you're clear on your values, it certainly gets easier. Yeah. But I'm probably hopelessly optimistic. I'm a big believer though in optimism. I think it's easier to be a pessimist than it is an optimist, and so we try to stay optimistic.
Well, we got deep here today. Definitely important, though. It goes beyond software and valuations of businesses for sure. So this question's a little more lighthearted. We'll end on that. If your life had a theme song, what would it be and why?
Bear with me. Maybe it won't be later. There's a song by a guy named John Hyatt called "Have a Little Faith in Me." And John Hyatt, believe it or not, is a longtime family friend of the early family, and so "Have a Little Faith in Me" was almost like a family theme song forever. And so I certainly don't mean it to say have a little faith in me, but to your point earlier about having great mentors and leaders around me forever, I think I've put my faith in others and just kind of followed blindly a lot throughout my career, and I think it's led me to some really interesting places. And so when we think about that, we've got certainly team members and families that have put their faith in the business. We've got early customers and clients that have put their faith in us. And so we think about that both ways, right? We're putting faith in our team and in their ability to deliver. And there's a lot of people putting their faith in us, and we think that's pretty cool. So, for me, again, I heard this a long time ago. I'm not sure where it comes from, but fear simply represents a lack of faith. And so, a lot of times if you're driven by fear, you're not making the best decisions. And so sometimes you just got to have a little faith.
Let's also ask you, Jason, is there anything that we didn't ask you today that you would want us to know about RISR or about you or about your team?
I think that we at RISR, again, believe deeply in financial advice. And so, again, we use that term pretty broadly, but we believe deeply in the advisor part of financial advice. And we really think that there's a problem. I mean, you look at the statistics and they're staggering. 65% of business owners don't have an advisor, and there is a tidal wave of businesses and owners of private businesses that are going to be transitioning over the next decade, and they need advice desperately. And a lot of times this isn't like private equity backed or venture backed companies, and they're not selling at a huge multiple or having some big life changing transaction. These are businesses up and down Main Street here, and they might not sell at all, but they've got to they've got to think through this asset and what that means when they transition out of it. And so for us, we think everything we do is from the lens of, does this help the advisor give better advice? And so I think we're crystal clear on who our customer is and who we serve. We're fortunate in that by serving the advisor and enabling better advice, the end business owner gets better outcomes as well, and we think that's super interesting. We're all about kind of the advisor and helping them through technology. And so, I don't know, beyond that, I don't think so.
Part of any basketball leagues?
Now, I was incredibly average to begin with, and
Oh, you played in college. No, you had to be pretty
played
good.
for a little bit after college, and I'll never forget. It was a Saturday morning the last time I played, and a buddy tore his ACL, and I drove him to the hospital. I'm like, I'm done.
I hear you on that.
And it's been 10 plus years, so
Yeah.
no.
All right. Well, I was going to try and get in on some of those games with you, but
I can point you to some, but no, I hung it up a long time ago.
well, thank you for coming on today. Appreciate it, Jason.
Likewise, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Goodbye.
The material and opinions voiced are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what is appropriate for you, please contact a member of our team.